All right, last week I talked a bit about Nintendo and how their 2022 is starting to shape up, and today I wanted to go over Sony with their PlayStation 5 and actually the PS4 that's still kind of coming along for the ride, at least with one big release that they have left up their sleeve. And I was looking at their 2022 right now and then looking around online, and people do seem to be concerned for Sony right now, at least over the next 12 months or so. And I kind of see why that might be the case, but I also think Sony has a couple of surprises left for the year. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start with today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen meals right to your doorstep. If you're looking to get in shape with summer coming up or just want to eat healthier, having a plan in the kitchen is the most important part. Being able to avoid the hassle of going to the grocery store and have your meals ready in just a few minutes makes things so much easier. Factor offers a ton of variety to choose from with a rotating weekly menu of over 25 meal options and add-ons. These meals come together in just a few minutes. Simply pop it in the microwave and you're good to go. This meal in particular is one of my favorites. It's a nice sun-dried tomato chicken with zucchini noodles on the side. I tend to be very busy during the day, and Factor has made it extremely easy to just pack a delicious meal that I don't have to overthink and can enjoy quickly while sticking to my nutritional goals. And the best part? There's no mess from cooking a big meal in the kitchen. I mean, who really wants to spend hours cooking and cleaning anyway? Head to go.factor75.com/SpawnWave120 and use code SpawnWave120 to get $120 off. That's go.factor75.com/SpawnWave120 and use code SpawnWave120 to get $120 off. Once again, a big shout out to Factor for sponsoring today's video. So let's start with exactly why people are concerned about 2022 right now, at least where we are currently with the snapshot of the landscape going forward with releases, and that's that Sony themselves, they don't have any first-party games currently dated for 2022. We'll get to some of their potential releases, and one that seems to be the obvious push for them over the next 8 months, but that seems to be the issue right now, is they just don't really have anything lined up. That can change very, very quickly, though, if they have some sort of large event coming up. Now, I will say Sony did a good job getting things started in 2022. There were legitimately very good games that came out. Horizon Forbidden West, great game. Gran Turismo 7, and while that had quite a bit of controversy that came with it based on the always online and the microtransactions, Gran Turismo fans seemed to genuinely enjoy it. And we did have some third-party games like Sifu, which I thought was awesome. That is a game that more people should be playing. And then Ghostwire. I enjoyed that as well. So for the most part, I was pretty happy with what Sony has done so far in 2022. But now, I look around at May, and this seems to be just in general, like across gaming, it's kind of a bit of a lull coming up here for this month, because I was looking up and down the list of titles. I think Trek to Yomi might be like the big game that I'm looking forward to right now in the month of May, and then we'll get into June, and there'll be more titles there to look forward to. But like in the immediate future, Trek to Yomi, Yuden Chronicle Rising, Salt and Sacrifice, Evil Dead, that could be interesting, Dolmen, MX vs. ATV Legends, Sniper Elite 5, and then SnowRunner. So, like I said, nothing massive really jumping off the page to me. And the last big event that we had from Sony and PlayStation was, I think, last September. That was with their big PlayStation showcase. They just did a State of Play, though, last month in March, so it's not like they've been quiet this entire time, and I would expect them to start talking here soon. The thing with Sony, ever since they have just opted out of E3, it's basically been anyone's guess as to when they want to talk about future releases. They could drop a PlayStation blog post and all of a sudden set up the next 3 months, for example. Or they could just start dropping State of Plays around individual titles. A God of War State of Play could pop up at any time. Same with the PlayStation Showcase event. It just really comes down to how much they have to show and if they think they can get a legitimate set of releases for a State of Play, or if they have to go to a showcase because maybe they want to show some hardware with PlayStation VR 2, which we'll be getting to that here in a little bit. But looking forward to what we could be seeing from Sony this year, God of War appears to be a lock. I mean, we've seen different developers out of Sony Santa Monica say it's coming this year. They did mention it's not ready to show, but I think that's more or less Sony trying to time things out, marketing, and of course, the big reveal for its eventual release date. But I think God of War is coming out this year. If I had to put it in a month, I'm either between September or October. I think it will be out before November, as Sony will be trying to set up the red carpet for several third-party games that are finding their way into quarter 4. Forspoken will also be there in quarter 4. That's a timed exclusive, as we know, for Sony. So that's something that they are relying on there, although I do have a lot of questions around that game. Final Fantasy 16 is nearing the end of its development, so I don't think it's going to be there like at the end of this year, but I wouldn't count it out either, because you never know with Square and Yoshida. They could pull a fast one and just sneak it in for this calendar year. Stray is also setting up for a summer release, as has been revealed pretty recently, and I think right now a lot of people are hoping that we see some of these rumors come to fruition around Sony, with Metal Gear Solid coming up, Bloodborne, and Silent Hill. And I mean, you get a dream team like that, set them up throughout the year along with God of War and Forspoken, or you'd end up with a pretty good calendar year to then go alongside of all of these third-party titles that are showing up. But like, putting the rumor stuff aside, we can at least talk a bit about some games that are currently in development and could actually be nearing a time where they're ready to show them. Guerrilla is working on a multiplayer game. It's mentioned as like a multiplayer shooter even. There have been a lot of job listings last year. Things like quality assurance or like community managers, and basically people coming in, figuring out different ways to help with the game and players interacting through different social means. So it does sound like they are gearing up some sort of online experience, which is what Sony is trying to push for right now, and that makes a lot of sense based on their current position. It's also very forward-thinking, I would say, based on some acquisitions that are currently happening. There's also talk around Naughty Dog and this unannounced remake. We all know it's The Last of Us. They're going to remake it for some reason. We had it released on the PS3, got it on the PS4. Sure, apparently we're going to remake it on the PS5. Although I did run a poll on the channel, and there are a lot of people that haven't played it. So I think to it myself, 2013, that was not that long ago. And then I realized, wait, that was like 9 years ago towards the end of this year, when you get to like the typical release window for a lot of games in like the fall. I mean, there are a lot of people who've come into gaming for the first time. And yeah, I know it was on the PS4, but the big hype was when it first released on the PlayStation 3. So sure, I guess they could. And let's be real, they're probably going to tie it in with some sort of multiplayer, and that may be where the new Factions online mode ends up being attached to. You got to buy the remake so you can get into Factions, which, if that's the case, I feel like that'd be a pretty big missed opportunity for it to just be a free-to-play game that just drops on the PlayStation 5. At least we can look at that and assume that it won't be a cross-gen game, because we already had Last of Us on the PS4, but who knows? Sony is doing some interesting stuff right now. We do know, though, that God of War will be a PlayStation 4 game, so maybe that will, that mark the end of Sony and this whole cross-gen thing that they're doing. I guess we'll see there. But we do also know that they have several partnerships, like with Deviation. That is a studio that I really want to pay attention to. Unfortunately, it seems like their project's a ways off, so I don't think we're going to hear anything with them. Haven, the newly acquired studio for Sony, also seems like they're in the early stages, and that probably won't be something shown this year. So it really does feel like right now Sony is setting things up currently, potentially with like Guerrilla having a multiplayer game. We'll see if that's ready. Last of Us remake, maybe with a multiplayer component. God of War, Stray, and then Square Enix coming in with Forspoken, along with a bunch of third-party games. I think they're going to really rely on that for the holiday season. Things like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Call of Duty's big for Sony, and that's one of the reasons they called Microsoft, apparently, and talked to them about it, because they make a lot of money on those on the sales of Call of Duty. Warzone 2, also rumored to be coming out this year. That'll be massive for Sony to have that there. We know games like Hogwarts Legacy, Saints Row, and on and on and on when it comes to a lot of these better-selling third-party titles. So I think that's kind of where Sony's positioning themselves right now. And that's not to mention their subscription service coming up. While they have a lot to prove with it, specifically with that premium $120 a year tier, I think they could have some really cool stuff going on there if they do it right, with PS1, PS2, and PSP games all being native experiences, and Sony's talked about bringing games in every single month to these different tiers. It's what we expect for PlayStation Plus Essential because we get games every month for that tier. But to think that every month we could look forward to a new PS1, PS2, or PSP game coming in natively, I mean, that is compelling stuff, at least for me, someone who does enjoy the legacy library from Sony. PSVR 2, according to several reports that have been coming out over the last month, I mean, it looks like that's going to be slipping into 2023, which is a shame because I am ready to upgrade this PlayStation VR 1 headset. I don't even really want to use it because you look at it now and the quality that it presents, it's so far behind everything else. I mean, the Quest 2 significantly outclasses it right now. I mean, one, you don't have to be tethered to anything, and two, it's just, it looks and functions better. So badly needs an upgrade for that one. And I was really hoping that PSVR 2 was going to come out this year, but seems like based on issues when it comes to parts, supply chain, all of this, it's probably going to be maybe second half of next year. I'm still holding out hope that we see it in like April or May for 2023. Otherwise, though, the big elephant in the room for Sony is their PlayStation 5 hardware. Can they get more of these consoles out there? Because it seems like they're falling behind a little bit when it comes to production. Microsoft, it's been mentioned that they have allegedly paid for chip priority, which, I mean, we're seeing the results, so that's all we can really assume right now is that that is the case. And I think it's going to be a struggle for the rest of the year for Sony just to get these systems in stock. I don't think you're going to see them on shelves at all this year, which is really weird to think. I mean, if I had gone back and mentioned and when it first came out in 2020, you're still not going to see these on store shelves going into 2023. Probably would have thought I was crazy, but I think that's when we'll start to see some relief in the whole chip shortage situation is in like the first half of 2023. And here's hoping that by the time we get to holiday 2023, you'll be able to just walk into a store and find a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox or whatever Nintendo has on the market, and you won't have to fight scalpers and resellers online. But while I do see a lot of people wondering what's going on with Sony, 2022 is not looking very packed right now, I'd give them a bit of time. I think they're going to show up with a showcase or a state of play that will at least turn the sentiment somewhat. And I think they'll at least have their big release for God of War ready for 2022. And hey, when it came out in 2018, it was a massive release. Ended up being Game of the Year for almost all outlets across the board. And it was my favorite game from that PlayStation 4 generation. So I have high hopes for God of War Ragnarok. But let me know what you guys think about this down below, specifically with Sony's 2022. How do you think they're going to shape this, and where do you think God of War ends up releasing? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.